What do you want to do with that pyro prick of yours? You want to come and embarrass yourself again? Only to get me turned on. And 2 seconds, you are done. Martha was a sophisticated and elegant woman with a beautiful smile and the most flawless face. Everything she owned exuded luxury. At 28, Martha had achieved almost everything she once dreamed of. A thriving boutique that sold luxury designer clothes and attracted the wealthy elites. She had a sleek car parked in a garage and lived a lifestyle many young women envied. But Martha's story hadn't always been one of glamour and wealth. Losing her parents as a child had pushed her into a world of hardship. She dropped out of school and had no choice but to fend for herself. It was during this time that she fell into the wrong crowd. Friends who introduced her to a life of hookups. Desperation led her to start selling her body for money, and what began as a means of survival quickly became the doorway to the lavish life she now lived. Martha's life was a wild one, sharing her body and bed with countless men in exchange for money. Men of all kinds, rich and influential, were always after her, ready to spend whatever it took just to get her attention. Her phone was always ringing, one call after another. Every night, Martha was out and about, moving from one club to another and spending money like water. She was well known everywhere and even built a network for herself. She started connecting young girls to rich men, arranging them to meet, all for a price. To stay ahead of her game, Martha had gone extreme lengths. She underwent a BBL surgery to sculpt her body to perfection, leaving men captivated. Her curvy hips, flat stomach, and radiant smile made her absolutely irresistible. Every time she walked down the street, all eyes were on her. Beautiful cars often slowed down to honk at her, their drivers turning their heads to get a better view of her endowed figure. Men would lose track of their conversations or stumble as they tried to keep their eyes on her while she walked past. And many girls silently wished they had a kind of body. With her beautiful face and perfect shape, finding a next target was never a problem. Wealthy men, eager to flaunt their riches, were always ready to bankroll her expensive lifestyle. They didn't mind spending heavily just for some time with her, and she never minded if the men were married or not. As long as their pockets were fat, she was always ready to do what she needed to do to get their money. Martha's actions had destroyed many homes. Some women had sunk into depression because of her. One day, a desperate wife called her, crying over the phone. The woman's voice trembled as she pleaded, "Please, I am begging you, leave my husband alone. We have children to feed, but I haven't set eyes on him in days." Martha, completely unmoved, replied in a cold and mocking tone, "Madam, maybe you should focus on your children or find something better to do, because this your husband is now our husband, and I am not leaving him anytime soon." She ended the call without a second thought, feeling nothing but amusement at the woman's desperation. But now, sitting in her room, the memories no longer amused her. The years of living this way had started to feel like unfulfilled years. For all her wealth and connections, she felt a void she could no longer ignore. She wanted more. The endless parties and reckless lifestyle had started to lose their appeal. What she craved now was something real, a family of her own, a husband who truly loved her, and children who would call her mother. After years of being involved with wealthy and powerful men, Martha realized she wanted something they could never give her: genuine love and a beautiful family. That day, as she gazed out of her window, she made a decision. Leaving her current life behind wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to try. It was time for a new beginning. She made a firm decision to leave her current life behind. No more hookups, no more doing runs. Martha was ready to settle down, but she wasn't willing to settle for just any man. If she was going to get married, it had to be a devoted Christian, a man who truly feared God, someone who wouldn't cheat on her. Her experience had shown her that too many men, even married ones, couldn't control their desires, and she no longer had any interest in that kind of life. To start afresh, Martha made bold changes. She knew that if she wanted a God fearing man, she had to present herself differently. So she stopped going to clubs, deleted all the contacts of the men she had been involved with, even the influential ones, and changed her phone number, cutting off ties with her old life. She even relocated to another city where no one recognized her. It was hard, but she convinced herself it was necessary. Martha began attending church services regularly, where she got baptized and even joined the church choir. At church, Martha's presence didn't go unnoticed. Her beauty and curvy figure still turned heads as usual. Men began to approach her, drawn to the charming new choir member, who seemed to carry herself with grace and dignity. For Martha, this was the plan falling into place, but she wasn't interested in just any church going man. She wanted a real and devoted church boy who was God fearing, but not the struggling type. He had to be very wealthy too. She had no intention of stepping down from the luxurious lifestyle she had grown used to. So, one by one, she began sorting through the men who were vying for her attention, quickly dismissing those who didn't meet her high standards. If a man wasn't wealthy enough or didn't seem truly committed to his faith, Martha wasted no time crossing him off her list. She felt certain that the right man would eventually come along, a godly, rich husband who would provide her with a stable and fulfilling life. In the same church, there was a young man named Michael. He was calm, soft spoken, and easygoing, the type of man who naturally drew admiration without even trying. Michael was a tech guru, and his work had taken him to different countries. Despite his wealth, Michael remained humble. What stood out most about him was his devotion to God. He never missed church service and was one of the few young rich men in the congregation who seemed truly God fearing. When Martha learned about Michael, she became intrigued. The more she saw him, the more convinced she became that it was exactly what she wanted. He ticked every box: God fearing, responsible, single, and most importantly, very rich. To Martha, Michael seemed like the perfect candidate for the husband she had been praying for. Unlike many wealthy men, he had no baby mamas, no questionable lifestyle, and no reputation for chasing women despite his success. Determined to catch his attention, Martha began to position herself strategically. She didn't want to seem desperate, but she knew she had to find a way for Michael to notice her. During church services, she made sure to sing passionately in the choir, her voice full of energy and grace. She was also present at every church service and event where she knew Michael would be. Whenever she noticed him in the church premises, she would greet him warmly or flash a kind smile, wishing he would approach her. Her effort paid off not long after. One Sunday afternoon, after church service, Michael saw her standing by the entrance, talking with a group of ladies. A radiant smile caught his eye, and he couldn't help but approach her. Captivated by her beauty and charm, Michael struck up a conversation. Martha's warm smile left a strong impression on him, and their first meeting quickly turned into a budding friendship. To Michael, Martha was the picture of grace and humility, unaware of her buried past. Michael only saw the kind and God fearing woman before him. Martha played her role flawlessly, presenting the version of herself she wanted him to see. They began to spend more time together, and before long, their friendship turned into something deeper. It led to courtship, and Martha felt like her dream of settling down with a godly and wealthy man was finally within reach. Michael, a devoted Christian who believed in honoring God in everything, including relationships, made it clear to Martha right from the start of their courtship that he wouldn't be involved in fornication. See, If we are going to do this, it has to be God's way. I strongly believe that we need to keep this relationship clean, with no sexual intercourse. He told her one evening. Martha pretended it was fine. She smiled and agreed. Of course, I respect that. We should do this God's way, she said sweetly, hiding her real feelings and acting as if she was okay with it. Their relationship stayed within the limits of cuddling, with Michael always setting clear boundaries. There were moments when Martha, frustrated by the lack of intimacy, tried to tempt him. She would wear fitted dresses that highlighted her curves, wanting to break his resolve, but Michael remained unshakable. Martha was bothered, but she reassured herself that it was all because of his faith, which only made her admire his dignity and commitment to God even more. So she remained patient, thinking, once we are married, everything will be normal. Unknown to Martha, Michael was only hiding something from her. The real reason he avoided intimacy was because he was hiding his very small and tiny manhood. A few months later, Martha and Michael got married in a beautiful church ceremony. Martha felt like her prayers had finally been answered. Now married to a godly and wealthy man, she believed the perfect life she wanted was unfolding before her. A life free from side chicks or baby mama drama. On their wedding night, Martha was filled with excitement. She had waited so long for this moment. She chose her best nightwear, applied a soft and sweet smelling perfume, and was confident that that night would be everything she had dreamed of. But to her shock, Michael walked into the room, said he was tired, and went straight to bed. Martha blinked in disbelief, staring at his sleeping form. Disappointment washed over her, but she tried to calm herself. It's just the first night. Maybe he's really tired, she reasoned. The second night came, and the same thing happened. Michael fell asleep without touching her, leaving Martha frustrated and confused. By the third night, she decided to take the lead, and this time, Michael couldn't make any more excuses. However, what Martha discovered left her utterly shocked. Michael's manhood was incredibly small and short. And to make matters worse, it didn't last more than a minute. Martha stared at him in disbelief, unable to hide her disappointment. Michael, noticing her expression, immediately tried for a second round. But the second round was even worse. This time, it didn't last 30 seconds and immediately fell asleep, snoring softly beside her. Martha sat on the bed, unable to comprehend what had just happened. After years of being with different physically capable and energetic men, this was the man she ended up marrying. How could I not have known? She thought bitterly. The signs were there. His constant refusal to be intimate before marriage, always hiding behind the excuse that fornication was a sin. Now it all made sense. She realized she was in trouble. This was her husband, the man she was supposed to spend the rest of her life with, and there was no going back. Martha had made a solemn vow to herself that she would never return to her old life. She had promised never to cheat on her husband, no matter the circumstances. But after discovering Michael's limitation in the bedroom, she found herself doubting whether she could keep that promise. At first, she tried to convince herself it wasn't a big deal, that she could manage. But deep down, she knew she couldn't continue living this way. She had needs, and every time she and Michael attempted intimacy, the size of his manhood would turn her off. Even when they did manage to have sexual intercourse, she was never satisfied. Resentment began to grow. She felt deceived by Michael. Michael became aware of her growing frustration, but continued to spoil her with money, spending lavishly, and making sure she had everything she needed. He was willing to use money to replace the areas where he lacked, but no amount of money could fix the dissatisfaction she felt. She began to see him differently, and her attitude towards him slowly started to change. Martha began rolling her eyes when he tried to engage her in conversation. Michael, as usual, continued to ignore her behavior. However, her disrespect soon became impossible to ignore. One night, Michael tried to be intimate with her. He reached out to her lovingly, but Martha wasn't having it. She pushed him away sharply. Better leave me alone, she snapped, her voice dripping with irritation. Michael looked at her. What is wrong? Did I do something to upset you? He asked. But Martha hissed and sat up in bed. You think I am upset because of something you did? You are the problem. Michael, what do you want to do with that pyro prick of yours? You want to come and embarrass yourself again? Only to get me turned on. And 2 seconds, you are done. Please, leave me alone. Michael sat frozen and embarrassed. Before he could say anything, she picked up a pillow and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. That night marked the beginning of a significant shift in their marriage. Martha's mocking remarks became more frequent. She began calling him names like Biro Prick and 2 Seconds Man, often muttering them under her breath or laughing sarcastically whenever he tried to talk to her. The tension in their home grew unbearable. Michael, on the other hand, didn't know how to address the growing hostility from his wife, and the peaceful relationship they once shared began to fall. On the outside, Martha and Michael's marriage appeared flawless. They arrived at every church service, hand in hand, flashing polite smiles as they greeted fellow members. To everyone watching, they were the picture of a perfect couple, wealthy, good looking, and deeply spiritual. But behind closed doors, their reality was far from what people imagined. Martha had completely withdrawn from her husband. She stopped giving him even the tiniest bit of affection or attention. Michael, still trying to keep their home cheerful, initiated engaging conversations in an attempt to bring them closer. But Martha had emotionally checked out, and soon, even a pretense of interest in their marriage faded. One night, something happened. After weeks of suppressing her frustration, Martha reached a breaking point. Her body ached with longing that even a collection of sex toys couldn't satisfy. She needed more, something real. As the night deepened and Michael snored softly in their bedroom, Martha made a decision that shattered whatever shred of commitment she had left to their vows. Quietly, she slipped out of bed and tiptoed out of their apartment to the flat next house that belonged to their neighbor, Joshua, a young bachelor who lived alone. Martha had noticed his admiring glances at her on several occasions. She had seen how he ogled at her constantly, and she decided it was time to act on them. When Joshua opened his door, he was startled to see her standing there in the middle of the night. Martha didn't waste time. She leaned against the door frame, her clothes slightly opened and slipping down from her shoulders, revealing just enough to make her intentions clear. Joshua hesitated for a moment, but Martha's charm was overpowering. Within moments, they were tangled on his bed. Martha felt alive. Joshua filled every part of her, satisfying her in ways Michael never could. He didn't just meet her needs, he exceeded them. That night marked the beginning of a dangerous routine. Whenever she had sexual desires, Martha would sneak out of their apartment to be with Joshua, and he was always more than willing to comply. Their secret arrangements gave her the satisfaction she craved. With her needs met, things seemed to settle in her home. Martha became less hostile towards Michael. Michael, unaware of what she had been doing, became relieved that his wife's mood had improved and took it as a sign that their marriage was stabilizing. Few months later, on a bright Saturday morning, while Martha was at home with Michael, her phone buzzed. She picked it up and froze. It was a bank alert with a massive sum, far more than she had ever seen at once. Michael, she called out, her voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. Did you send this? Michael, who was sitting calmly on the couch, looked up from his laptop and smiled. Oh, that's from one of my clients. I just finished building a custom app for his company. He sent it as payment. You can spend from it, maybe get your hair done or something. Martha blinked in surprise. Oh my god, thank you so much, she said sweetly. As she walked back to her room, she muttered to herself, if he can't satisfy me in bed, at least he is good in other areas. A sly smile spread across her face. Without wasting time, Martha began planning how to use the money. She ordered for plenty wares and goods to restock her boutique with the latest designer outfits, ensuring her shop would remain the go-to place for luxurious fashion. Next, she pampered herself with expensive wigs, outfits, and accessories that elevated her already striking looks. But little did she know that this excitement was only temporary, and life had other plans for her. One day, Martha was busy in her boutique when an unexpected event happened. She was walking around, making sure everything was in place, when a group of stern looking men entered. They identified themselves as the EFCC. Before Martha could react, they approached and arrested her. The officers informed her that a very large sum of money had been traced to her account, and the funds were obtained through fraudulent activities. She was taken aback. Her heart raced as confusion spread through her mind. She had no idea what they were talking about. She tried to protest, but the officers didn't care about her objections or her explanations. By the time they reached the station, her head was spinning. The officers led her into an interrogation room where they laid out the facts. Her account had been flagged, and the money in it had been traced back to a big fraudulent deal. Martha's mind was tangled with thoughts. In that moment, it all clicked. A huge sum of money had entered her account as a gift from her husband few days ago. But what she didn't know was that the money wasn't from Michael's work as a tech guru like she had thought. It was a product of a scam he had been running. He was a Yahoo boy, a cyber criminal, using his tech skill to dupe unsuspecting foreigners and make millions. When she was told, Martha only became more confused. Michael had always been the calm, reserved, typical tech boy she had married, always busy working on his laptop late into the night, supposedly developing apps and working on international contracts. She had trusted him, believed in his success. Never in her wildest dreams did she think he would be involved in anything illegal. Her mind refused to accept what she was hearing. Michael, a fraudster, the man who had been so careful to keep their relationship pure, to uphold Christian values, was now being accused of fraud. She tried to explain that she had no knowledge of any wrongdoing, that she had simply received the money as a gift from her husband, who had claimed it was a payment for his work. But the officers weren't moved by her pleas. They had all the evidence. The money was found in her possession, and to top it all, she had squandered all the money. No matter how much she protested, Martha was now tangled in a major crime. Madam, how can you claim it was a gift from your husband when you don't even know where it came from? And you've even spent the old money. We believe the two of you have been involved in this together from the start. But don't worry, by the time we are done with you, you will understand exactly what is going on, one of the officers said in annoyance. Martha soon realized she was in a very big soup. She remembered the late nights Michael spent on his laptop, the little explanations he gave her about his work, and now it all made sense. She had never pried too deeply into his activities. She just didn't care about it. All she wanted was the money. But now she knew the truth. Michael had been lying to her, and she was the one left to face the consequences. And to make matters worse, no one had any idea where Michael was. He had vanished without a trace. The officers led her to a holding cell where she was kept. Her properties were seized, which included her car and other assets, while her boutique was closed down. Martha sat in the prison cell, still in total shock. Everything that happened felt like a very bad dream. She had thought Michael was a true Christian and tech expert, but never realized he was a fraudster who just used his religion as a facade to cover his evil deeds. And now she had been implicated. Why would he do this to me? Martha muttered sadly to herself. But what Martha didn't know was that Michael had found out everything about her past after they got married. The dark part of her life that she tried so hard to bury, how she had ruined countless marriages, and even the affair she had with their neighbor. Out of rage, he decided to send her to jail to make her pay for deceiving and cheating on him. Michael had intentionally implicated her, while he quickly ran away to avoid getting caught. Martha sat in the prison cell, unsure of what to do. She had no one to rescue her. Gone were the days when influential men were at her fingertips. Now she was left to face her struggles alone. As the tears began to form, she couldn't stop herself. Her world had come crashing down in an instant, and she was powerless to stop it. The life she had built, her business, everything was lost. She had thought Michael was the best man she could marry, not realizing he had used Christianity and his church boy image to hide his real work and keep his true nature from the world. Just like she had her own dark past and secrets, he also had his. What a couple they had been, she thought. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe. Bye.